What if I told you that a few political decisions could shake the entire global economy, sending prices soaring, industries scrambling, and governments in a full-blown economic warfare? Well, that's exactly what's happening. The US thought it could pressure Europe with tariffs, but the EU isn't just going to sit there and take the hit. This isn't just about taxes on goods. It's about power, strategy, and a trade war that could rewrite the rules of global commerce. And trust me, the moves being made behind closed doors, they're more calculated than you think. Imagine waking up to find that the price of your favorite European cars just skyrocketed. That's because Donald Trump's administration decided that tariffs are the answer to what they call unfair trade practices. The targets? Steel, agriculture, electronics, and, of course, the automotive industry. To some, it's a strategic move. To others, a ticking time bomb that could shake the global economy. But here's the kicker. Tariffs aren't just numbers on paper. They crush profit margins, dismantle production networks, and shift the balance of power in international trade. And don't think this trade war is just political posturing. With this move, the US is daring Europe to strike back. And if history has taught us anything, retaliation is inevitable. That puts the entire supply chain in a tough spot. Who takes the hit? Manufacturers? Consumers? Whole economies? What seems like a high-stakes chess game can quickly turn into a chaotic domino effect. And here's the real question. Will Europe simply sit back and take it? If you're the kind of person who wants to stay ahead of global power plays, you're in the right place. But knowledge is only power if you act on it. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The next moves in this trade war, you want to see them coming before everyone else does. If the US thought Europe would just sit back and take the hit, they've clearly forgotten who they're dealing with. The European Union wasted no time firing back, warning that retaliation is on the table, and it won't be pretty. The message is clear. If Washington insists on slapping tariffs on European goods, Brussels will make sure American industries feel the burn. The stakes? Billions in trade, with the automotive industry, agriculture, and tech caught in the crossfire. This isn't just a disagreement. It's the opening scene of an economic standoff that could shake the global economy to its core. But here's the thing. This isn't just about politics. It's about survival. The EU isn't merely protecting its industries. It's defending the entire supply chain that connects businesses across continents. If US tariffs go through, European carmakers like BMW, Volkswagen, and Mercedes could face devastating losses. But it won't stop there. American giants like Ford and Tesla could also find themselves struggling in European markets. So, what happens when both sides start taking swings? A full-blown trade war becomes more than just a possibility. It becomes a dangerous reality. When economic giants clash, industries become battlegrounds. The automotive industry is right in the line of fire, and the fallout could be catastrophic. BMW, Volkswagen, and Mercedes, pillars of Europe's car market, face massive losses if US tariffs make their exports unaffordable. But here's where it gets tricky. American automakers aren't safe either. If the EU retaliates, Ford and Tesla could lose their grip on the European market, where competition is already cutthroat. What was once a carefully balanced supply chain now looks more like a domino setup. One wrong move, and everything starts falling. And let's not forget the hidden ripple effects. This trade war doesn't just hit manufacturers. It sends shockwaves through steel, electronics, and even agriculture. Rising costs, disrupted production, and plummeting demand could reshape entire sectors overnight. The global economy thrives on stability, and when two economic superpowers go head-to-head, businesses everywhere feel the tremors. The real question isn't just who wins or loses. It's how deep the damage will run. If you're finding this breakdown eye-opening, imagine how much more there is beneath the surface. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because understanding these power shifts puts you ahead of 99% of people. This isn't just about cars and steel. It's about the foundation of the global economy. A full-scale trade war between the US and the EU wouldn't just hit businesses. It would send financial markets into a frenzy. Investors hate uncertainty, and when tariffs disrupt the supply chain, production costs surge, corporate profits shrink, and stock prices plummet. Inflation? Almost inevitable. When raw materials become more expensive, everything down the line, from cars to consumer goods, sees price hikes. And who ends up paying for it? The everyday consumer. But the domino effect goes even further. Central banks may be forced to step in, adjusting interest rates to stabilize markets, while multinational companies scramble to shift production elsewhere. The irony? The very economies imposing tariffs might end up hurting themselves the most. Think about it. If costs spiral out of control, businesses close, jobs disappear, and economic growth stalls. What started as a strategic trade maneuver could spiral into a recession with global consequences. The question is, how far will leaders push before the damage becomes irreversible? A trade war between the US and the EU isn't just a political clash. It's a wrecking ball aimed at the global economy. When tariffs disrupt the supply chain, production costs rise, inflation surges, and stock markets spiral. Consumers end up paying more for everything from cars to electronics, while businesses struggle to stay competitive. And here's the kicker. The very economies imposing these tariffs might suffer the most, with shrinking profits, layoffs, and stalled growth. So, the real question is, how much economic pain are these leaders willing to endure before backing down? Germany knows that in a trade war, brute force isn't always the smartest move. Sometimes, diplomacy is the real power play. While Berlin prefers negotiations over tariffs, it won't sit idle if U.S. policies threaten its economic backbone. The automotive industry is a pillar of Germany's economy, and if American tariffs hit brands like BMW, Volkswagen, and Mercedes, the response will be swift. Expect targeted retaliation, higher tariffs on American goods, restrictions on tech imports, and strategic moves to protect European manufacturers. The message? If the U.S. plays hardball, Germany knows how to strike back. France isn't just watching this trade war unfold, it's gearing up for a fight. With strong exports in agriculture, luxury goods, and technology, Paris sees tariffs as a direct attack on its economic power. While diplomacy is always on the table, France won't hesitate to push back with its own retaliation if the U.S. escalates tensions. The global economy depends on stable trade, but if American policies threaten French industries, expect swift countermeasures. After all, France has a history of standing firm when its interests are at stake, and this time won't be any different. Italy sees the dangers of a full-scale trade war, but it also knows that rolling over isn't an option. While Rome values diplomacy, it won't hesitate to defend key industries if U.S. tariffs start biting. With a strong tourism sector and growing influence in technology, Italy has leverage, and it knows how to use it. Retaliation could come through restrictions on American tech giants or targeted barriers against U.S. goods. The goal? Minimize damage while keeping a seat at the negotiating table. After all, in global trade, survival isn't just about strength, it's about strategy. When governments play hardball with tariffs, everyday people end up paying the price. A full-blown trade war between the U.S. and the EU wouldn't just hurt corporations. It would ripple through the entire global economy. Businesses face rising production costs, forcing them to either absorb losses or pass the burden onto consumers. That means higher prices on everything from cars to electronics, fewer options on store shelves, and potential job cuts as industries struggle to stay competitive. In the end, the question isn't who wins, it's how much everyone loses before someone backs down. Not all leaders see tariffs as the answer. Some push for diplomacy, while others brace for a full-scale trade war. The stakes? The stability of the global economy and the future of international trade. Dialogue could prevent further escalation, but retaliation is already in motion, and economic tensions rarely dissolve overnight. With supply chains on the line and entire industries at risk, the next moves will define whether this is just another trade dispute or the beginning of something far more disruptive. The real question? Who blinks first? You're now part of the small percentage of people who actually understand what's happening behind the headlines. Most just hear the words tariffs, trade war, and retaliation without realizing the high-stakes chess game unfolding between global superpowers. But here's the thing. This is just one of countless economic battles shaping the world right now. If you want to stay ahead, to truly grasp how these power moves affect industries, businesses, and even your own wallet, you need to keep learning. So, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because understanding the bigger picture, that's what separates the few who stay ahead from the many who get left behind.